Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, back at the Hungaroring to open the 2021 Asset Cup Series Championship, and we are about to witness the first round of the TCR Eastern Europe, which is our favorite touring car racing championship, of course. And we are starting here at the Hungaroring. Since 1986, it's been serving one of Europe's finest racing, also alongside Formula One Grand Prix, but also lots of TCR races in different guises. And this is Maťo Homola, very experienced Slovakian driver, present here on the starting grid in his brand new, and I do really mean brand new, Hyundai Elantra. That's the car that's seriously fresh from the factory, just handed over to the team very recently, and it's completing its first mileage here in Hungary before it actually makes its way to the European Touring Car Racing Championship. So Maťo Homola and his teammate Joachim Galaš, who have the Elantras prepared by Janík Motorsport team, are probably not going to be the regular contestants of the Eastern European Championships, but their teammates should be. And we are racing again here in Hungary, 4,381 meters, one of the shorter tracks actually on average. It's a tight and twisty circuit, but the first corner reprofiled back in 2003, and the start and finish straight extended to give us more opportunities for overtaking, better opportunities for overtaking. Also, the second sector of the circuit was also modified.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, before the start of the TCR Eastern Europe race. Here behind me is the man on the pole position. Let's hear his expectations of this race. Hello, can you tell us what do you expect of this race? What is the plan?
The plan is to be the first after the first corner and then to win the race, but I think that the guys behind will be really fast, especially with the new cars.
How was qualifying today?
It was really tricky in the wet conditions, but we managed to stay on the pole, and that's most important.
Okay, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
We will come here to the driver on the second starting position. It's Galaš. Hello, can you tell us please what is the plan for this race? What are your expectations?
The only thing I'm here for is basically to test the new Elantra for Portimao. So, to me, I don't really have a reason to compete here because I won't do the whole championship. I'll probably do just this one race. But the point of this race is to set the car up to be optimal for Portimao. So the only thing I want from this race is to finish.
How was qualifying today?
Yeah, I mean, pretty wet, but it showed that we still have some work to do on the Elantra. But anyway, I'm happy with the result in qualifying because, you know, first row is always first row, it doesn't matter where. But yeah, like I said, I only want to finish.
Okay. Thank you very much and good luck. That's all, ladies and gentlemen, for now from starting grid. Enjoy the race. We are going back to our commentators.
So that was our pole sitter Bartosz Groszek, who was in the fight for P3 overall last season. He joined the championship only after the first two rounds, so it was actually in his home country, at his home race in Poland, at Poznań last season, where Bartosz Groszek made his debut. Immediately, he won race number 2 of that weekend, and he decided he liked it so much on the podium that he locked in numerous top 3 finishes immediately after that, and it was really hard to get him off it. In the end, he was fighting out with Karol Wittke for P3 overall. And this season, definitely, he is one of our main contestants in the battle for the overall championship. That, of course, because our top 2 finishers from 2021 are gone for this season. Michal Makeš, who was our last year's champion, driving the Cupra Leon, prepared by Michanek Motorsport team. He left the championship and will be competing in the BMW M2 Cup. And also Tomáš Pekas, having had to sell his Cupra, he returned back to the Clio Cup racing for this season. So that's the top two guys out. And last year's third and fourth placed men, Karol Wittke and Bartosz Groszek, are definitely going to be among the hottest aspirants for the overall crown. So let's see what the starting grid looks like. It's Bartosz Groszek, who was fastest earlier on today in the wet qualifying, but he was really very fast, and he also managed to beat the brand new Elantras that are right behind him. Joachim Galasch, from whom we also have heard a couple of minutes back, and his teammate Maťo Homola, both Elantras being prepared by Janík Motorsport team. But as already mentioned, they are going to compete in the European TCR this season. And because the cars are really brand new from the factory, this is their first test. This is the first opportunity where they can set the cars up properly and make them work before joining the European competition. So just as Joachim mentioned on the start, for him, it makes not that much sense to go into, let's say, overly aggressive battles, and his aim is going to be not to break the car and to keep on with the development and setup work to be ready for the European campaign. So definitely not expecting anything silly from him and his teammate, which means that they should not maybe be that hot on the heels of Bartosz Groszek. But you know what, that's racing drivers. Once the race starts, you never know what you can expect from them, and that racing instinct sometimes still prevails. So let's see what happens in this race. Very interesting name in fourth place. It's the Hungarian, so the local driver Levente Losonci, who up until last season was still competing in the Renault Clio Cup, but for this season he has got hold of an Alfa Romeo Giulietta TCR, and he's joined the grid for the Eastern European Championship here in TCR, and his first qualifying, definitely a big success. It's row number 2. Behind him, Milovan Vesnic. He was part of the championship last season, all the way up until Croatian round, where he had his contact with then later championship leader Michal Makeš. His car ended up with a lot of damage, and Milovan Vesnic never returned back to the championship last season, but now he is back. Not sure if it has something to do with the absence of Michal Makeš on the grid, but we'll just leave it to conspiracies. Anyway, Karol Wittke in 6th on row number 3 in his full-in race academy prepared brand new Cupra, or actually was brand new last year, where the team spent the first half, let's say, dealing with teething troubles with child illnesses and design problems that inherently made the car unreliable, and the team had to go through lots of problems before some of the designs were changed, and then the team really got on top of the setup work as well, which made them extremely strong for the second half of the season, which included also the front row lockout. And Karol Wittke was actually able to hold on to P3 and get that P3. So Karol Wittke now 6th on the grid, maybe a little lower than we would have expected, but anyway, we can definitely expect some interesting action from him, and I would think that he could be moving up the order in this race. Behind him, Sebastian Steibl, also one of the promising juniors. Behind him, Petr Semerád and Václav Janík in the i30s prepared by Janík Motorsport. And to top off the top 10, that's Milenko Vukovic. Behind them, Sanel Čehić, Tomáš Řepecký, Petr Čížek, Radim Adámek, Žarko Knigo and Franjo Kovač in P16. So everything is ready for the opening Eastern European TCR race of 2022. The red lights are on and we are racing in Hungary. Bartosz Groszek from pole position. Lots of tire smoke from pretty much all of the grid. And we are now approaching the first corner very fast, and it looks like Joachim Galash already on the inside of Bartosz Groszek into the first corner. Milovan Vesnic also looking down the inside of Bartosz Groszek. Great start from also Vukovic, I believe, in his Megane. He had a rocket start from P10, if that's him. And it's Joachim Galash already leading this race. There's contact here and there. Milovan Vesnic dropping from the track, and Joachim Galash seems to have already broken suspension of the right rear wheel. Definitely something he planned to avoid but did not manage to do so. Bartosz Groszek back in the lead of the race in front of Vukovic, and in third we have got, if I see correctly, Sebastian Steibl. So in P4 that is Levent Teloshonce in his Alpha, and Joachim Galash, that's a disaster for the start of his race, because he had a beautiful start. He was already up into the lead of the race, and now his brand new Elantra ends up with a broken right rear suspension and out of this race. Matěj Homola, his teammate, opting for a bit more of a low-key start and dropping a couple of places in the process. Bartosz Groszek, on the other hand, back into the lead of the race and already enjoying quite a bit of a gap from the rest of the competition. He has got Milenko Vukovic in second. So let's see the first corner once again. Bartosz Groszek was trying to defend from Joachim Galash, but the Czech driver had simply a better getaway and enjoyed the inside line. But then there was a couple of contacts. First, a little nudge from behind from Bartosz Groszek that sent Joachim Galash into the spin, which he corrected, but he found himself in the path of Milovan Vesnic. There was another contact, and that touch, I believe, broke the right rear suspension on his Elantra. So Joachim Galash, I believe, is out of the race already. Milovan Vesnic very much alike, it looks like. And this is Matěj Homola fighting now for P3 with Sebastian Steibl. Levent Teloshonce in fifth already from Petr Semerád. He's one of the race star drivers. Ooh, Levent Teloshonce getting his Alpha very sideways there. And there are yellow flags in this part of the track. I believe that's because of the car of Joachim Galash that may be standing somewhere on the edge of the track in this sector. But here we are green again. Levent Teloshonce under attack from Petr Semerád, fighting for P5. Behind them Karol Wittke, Tomáš Řepecký in his VW Golf GTI. Then Václav Janík and Petr Čížek completing the top 10 for the moment. So that was again eventful start of the race. And let's see again the replay of that hairy moment for the local boy. Levent Teloshonce still defending from Petr Semerád, and Petr Semerád having to go all around the outside into the second to last corner. Now enjoying the inside line into the last one, but still Levent Teloshonce managing to stay ahead of him. So Petr Semerád has to do it again. Now on the start and finish straight, he has to launch another attack into the first corner. It should be at least possible under braking. Petr Semerád moving down the inside of Levent Teloshonce and using that inside line to deal with his opponent. Petr Semerád up into fifth. Behind them, Karol Wittke right now down in seventh, having lost one place at the start, which actually must have been more, regarding the fact that two drivers dropped from contention, drivers that were battling for P2 and P3 right at the beginning of the race, which which was Milovan Vesnic and Joachim Galash. They are now out. 20 minutes now left on the clock, so first 5 minutes gone. And we keep on racing. This is Petr Čížek from Václav Janík, the boss of the Janík Motorsport team. And Václav Janík was overtaken by Petr Čížek in the other Cupra, prepared by Full-In Race Academy. Behind them, the Bosnian driver Sanel Čehić. And there is again Petr Semerád. He did overtake Levente Loshenci, but he is not managing to escape from him. So they are still close together. Karol Wittke on the rear wing of Levente Loshenci as well. Entering lap number 4 now. But Milenko Vukovic, really, he had an impressive start because he was all the way down in 10th, I believe, on the starting grid. But then he gained so many places and he is now up into 3rd. There is Petr Semerád in one of the i30s, the model that is actually replaced by Elantra, at least in the World and European Touring Car Racing. Janík Motorsport entered the European competition last year, but sadly, however, the i30 that they fielded was already, let's say, being outdated, so restricted more and more on power, on ride height and some other things. What was once a championship winning model, the i30, became no match for the new Elantra pretty quickly last season. So this year it's already out of the European TCR, but we can still see it here in the Eastern European Championship. Petr Čížek already having a look down the inside, and Tomáš Řepecký now both alongside each other into the last corner. Now it is Řepecký's inside line, so Petr Čížek stays behind, but he might manage a better exit. He's trying to use the slipstream behind the Polish driver. There is an attack down the start and finish straight into the first corner. Shame that we have not stayed in that view of the two drivers, so we don't know how that ended. There they are, and Petr Čížek has found his way past Tomáš Řepecký. So Petr Čížek up into 8th now, behind his teammate Karol Wittke. Václav Janík having a bit of a sideways moment of his own through the second corner, while Bartosz Groszek enjoys over 2 seconds of the lead right now. But Maťo Homola behind him set the fastest lap of the race, and he was by about 0.4 of a second faster on that last lap, on that previous lap, faster than Bartosz Groszek, so he closed that gap a little bit. Milenko Vukovic in 3rd from Sepp Steibl, Petr Semerád 5th, Levente Loshenci 6th, Karol Wittke and Petr Čížek in 7th and 8th, the two Full-In Race Academy Cupras. There is the car number 22, and there is the car number 14. there's a big fight between Semerat and Steibl for B4 now. And Steibl finds himself on the less advantageous outside line, which means that Petr Semerat is through now. But Steibl trying to fight back. Dives down the outside, actually. Behind them, Karol Wittke trying to use the opportunity to attack Levente Loshonci. Now they are running side by side, while Petr Semerat is still having a go at Sebastian Steibl, who managed to overtake him back. Karol Wittke down the inside on Levente Loshonci, battling for P6, and the German driver is through. So that was a nice moment, and now Karol Wittke regained the position that belonged to him on the start, on the starting grid of this race. In front of them is this battle, Semerat versus Steibl, and in front of them, Milenko Vukovic. Debuting the Renault Megane RS TCR in this leg of the championship. Of course, TCR having so many different championships, so many different series all around the world. Now the field is being joined here with the Renault Megane RS. And immediately on its debut, it's reaching out for a great result. But still there is more than half the distance left to go. And that was a nice one. Petr Semerat diving down the inside of Sebastian Steibl and robbing him of his 4th place. That was pretty clever, and it seems that Steibl has no answer to this one. If anything, he actually has to defend again, because he was attacked by Karol Wittke, but now suddenly he finds himself in another fight. Okay, let's watch this replay, but there's another fight going on immediately. So much on-track action right now. So this was how Petr Semerat got himself up in front of Sebastian Steibl. There is Groszek from Homola, and Homola is still closing in on the Polish driver. 1.1 seconds between them now at the halfway mark of the race. So it seems that the Elantra is waking up. Bartosz Groszek is doing all he can. Maybe his car picked up a tiny bit of damage in that touch with Joachim Galash on the opening lap of the race. It's hard to tell, but definitely his lap times are now no match for his Slovakian opponent. Milenko Vukovic does not seem to be alone in 3rd anymore. He's a long way away from the race-leading battle. Ooh, and there's a problem for, I believe, Karol Wittke, who has now moved aside of the track. And there must have been a contact or something, because the Cupra is now, it's hidden from the view actually, but there was a problem of some sort, maybe a touch with one of the opponents, maybe technical trouble, but Karol Wittke seems to be out of this race now. Karol Wittke dropping down the Oder like a stone into the pond. There is Levente Loshonci behind Steibl, so Petr Semerat managed to clear both of them already. And he is now on the rear wing of Milenko Vukovic, fighting for that podium finish. There they are, Milenko Vukovic and Petr Semerat in the close fight for P3. It's really very close between them. Ooh, look how lively that Megane is now. And that's opening the door for Petr Semerat, who's definitely not waiting for the second invitation. But there were yellow flags. This could be a problem for Petr Semerat, because there were yellow flags being waved there. And Petr Semerat did get ahead of Milenko Vukovic into that corner. Definitely already in front, or before that corner, the yellow flags were being waved. It is now important to maybe examine where exactly was the point where Petr Semerat got ahead of Milenko Vukovic. But that is on the verge of breaching the regulations. The race stewards are going to have to take a look into it. We'll see if they manage to come up with any decision still within the race, or they're going to have to wait after the race to investigate maybe the onboards from the cars. Let's see again. Semerat getting ahead of Vukovic. There is the yellow flag. Semerat was ahead, but only just. So this could still be safe. But I believe that the race stewards are definitely going to review that one, and we're going to have to wait for the confirmation of today's results, because still, to me, this is asking for a penalty. Let's hope not, because in any case, this has been a brilliant race by Petr Semerat. Beautiful stuff from him, beautiful overtaking. And he is now in third, which would mean a podium finish to start his 22 season. And this is the fight for the race victory. Bartosz Groszek still in the lead from Matej Homola. Let's not forget that Matej Homola, even though he might be faster, he definitely doesn't need any damage to his car, and every lap he can now finish is good for him and good for the setup of the car, good for the team, good for the experience. Exactly what Joachim Galash was speaking about right before the race. Before a couple of minutes later, he found himself being crashed out of the race. There is a blue flag being waved to Vukovic's teammate Franjo Kovac. He's having to make way for everybody around him right now. So he's letting Steibl through, he's letting Loshonci through. There's also Petr Čížek closing in. And I'm still wondering what happened to Karol Wittke, because he's the third driver today to drop out of contention. But not really sure what happened there. We just saw him disappearing from the view very briefly, and we're not sure if that was a technical issue or a contact with another car. Gonna have to wait probably until after the race when we get the answer. So definitely tomorrow you'll know. And with that, we're basically also getting to invitations for tomorrow. Actually, we are definitely not done today yet. There is still that endurance race waiting for us to close this day off somewhere around 5:45 today. But tomorrow it is the second TCR Eastern Europe race at 10:40, and then the second sprint GT in the afternoon, and also some Clio and Twingo racing. But these are interesting battles of today, so let's get back to them. Steibl under attack from Loshonci, but also Milenko Vukovic under attack from Petr Semerat. So these positions basically changed back, and Milenko Vukovic We were actually investigating on our own a little bit that incident between Vukovic and Semerad for a potential breach of yellow flag regulations, but now the order is back. Not really sure what the camera was looking for there. But there we are, back in action. Vukovic third from Semerad. Maybe Semerad got instructions from his team to let Vukovic back through to avoid the potential penalty. I still believe he may have been able to gone away with it. Because at least that shot that we had at our disposal showed that he was already ahead of Vukovic at the track marshal post where the first yellow flags were being waved, and maybe we were missing some other information. And really not sure if Petr Semerad actually let Vukovic through. That's definitely something that we will also discover after the race itself. Steibl under pressure from Petr Čížek. Definitely not a bad race from Petr. He has rather been low-key in qualifying and at the beginning of this race, but he is using his experience and second season with this new Cupra, and he's building up on every single race now. And he's slowly moving his way up the order. So he's now in kind of quiet seventh. But already looking down the inside of Sebastian Steibl, this is a good moment for Petr Čížek, and Petr Čížek is moving up the order. Steibl trying to fight back, but not successfully. Čížek up into sixth. So he's replacing his teammate Karol Wittke around these positions, jumping in for him, and now being the sole full-in race academy car still left in the race. And it looks like he has managed to preserve his tires all the way up until this moment, and he manages to be a bit racier than the cars around him. So there are still a couple more places to pick up. Still some time left on the clock, just under 2.5 minutes of it actually. The fight for win is still going to be decided between Bartosz Groszek and Maťo Homola. But, as already mentioned, probably Homola does not need any trouble, so he is kind of proving to himself that the car is fast enough to fight for the victory of this race, which may be enough for him, and we may not see any fight for the win in this race. But there's only half a second between them. Maťo Homola lapping pretty much in the same time like Bartosz Groszek. That's because they are now so close together, so half a second between them. That remains to be the case. And for third, it's this fight, Milenko Vukovic from Petr Semerad. We are potentially entering the last lap of the race, although it's definitely going to be very, very close for Bartosz Groszek. He might be able to enter another one, but let's see. There is Groszek, leading from Homola. Homola is now so close, definitely defying my comment on not wanting to race for the win. So the Slovakian driver, he is still a racing driver, and he wants to win. You see that. Maybe he's not going to be that aggressive as he may be later on this season in the European Championship. But he's still fighting for the win anyway, and now they are going side by side. This is the last lap already, but it's probably going to be a photo finish. Bartosz Groszek is in the end victorious here in Hungary. Amazing stuff on the last lap of this race. So Matej Homola did try around the outside, but in the end didn't manage to make that one stick. And it is Bartosz Groszek opening his 2022 title challenge here in Eastern European TCR with a victory. What a race that was. Bartosz Groszek defended from Matej Homola in the end and is victorious. Milenko Vukovic, what a race! What a race from this driver who's opening his season in his Renault Megane RS machine with a podium place, having started so far down the order, but he used all the chaos, all the drama of the opening lap to jump a couple of places, and then he collected that P3. He had to defend it hard from Petr Semerat, who ends up in P4. To him also hats off. Great race for Petr Semerat as well. Beautiful stuff. And we still will be waiting probably for the investigation of that one little yellow flag, potential infringement, but let's hope that no penalties are actually needed. Levente Loshonci opens his career in TCR racing with 5th. Petr Čížek up to 6th. Good race for him as well. Sebastian Steibl, a bit low-key result in the end to open the season with only P7. Behind him, Tomáš Řepecký, Sanel Čehič and Radim Adamek completing the top 10. Behind them also Žarko Kněgo and Franjo Kovač. And we seem to have lost Václav Janík as well towards the end of the race. We saw Karol Wittke dropping out of it, and we definitely saw Milovan Vesnic and Joachim Galáš crashing out on the opening lap.